Hi guys, it's Kasha. Welcome to the channel, to my Wonderland. It is coffee time, and today we have June's wrap up. I'm pretty happy about the month of June because I have read more than I expected, and now let's get to exactly which books I read and what I thought about them. The first book that I finished in June is Fangirl by Rainbow Rowell. And I gotta say, I first read Carry On by Rainbow Rowell because it was being so hyped and they were saying it was something similar to Harry Potter. There's nothing like Harry Potter. So I just went ahead and I bought it and I read it, and I thought it was okay, but it was not definitely one of those books that totally wowed me. Anyways, I still bought Eleanor and Park and I read that as well. I was still not sure if I really liked the style from Rainbow Rowell, but then I got to Fangirl. I really love this book. It's my favorite one so far from the ones that I've read from Rainbow Rowell. It was kind of weird because I read Carry On first and then I read Fangirl. If you don't know what Fangirl is about, it is about this girl named Kath and she goes to college. Kath has a twin sister which is called Ren, and they go together to college, but while Ren wants just to be, like experiencing the whole college thing and going wild, Kath is just really a bookworm, and she also writes fan fiction about Carry On, and it is about, like growing up and leaving home and all these new experiences that she makes in college. I love the characters so much, like I could really relate to them. I was like experiencing everything with them. This book was the cutest, and I definitely recommend it to anybody that has not read it yet. Even if you read maybe Carry On and you didn't like it for whatever reason, just give Fangirl a try because I really enjoyed it. The next book I read is a middle grade, and that is Nightmares by Jason Segel and Kristen Miller. I've been meaning this year to get again more into middle grade books, especially the ones that are kind of like spooky and with a lot of fantasy. I found this book secondhand, so I got it and I read it, and I gotta say, I loved it so much. It kind of took me back to the times where I used to watch Goosebumps on television. We follow the story of Charlie, and he's not in the best moment of his life. His mother passed away a year ago, and his dad is kind of moving on with his life. His dad just met somebody new, and this girl lives in a mansion that is supposed to be like spooked, and there are all of these kind of mysteries around it. So his dad decides to move in there with this new woman, and Charlie is having a hard time dealing with that. And then he ends up investigating and ends up in a world of monsters, and it's really cool. I'm not gonna tell you more about it so that you can experience the book yourself. But I thought it was so well written, and the characters are so lovable, and you can totally relate to them as well. For being a middle grade, the characters were so well developed and the world as well, and I really enjoyed it. I already also got the second book on the trilogy because I'm really enjoying this. And then let's go to one of the books that I read this month that totally ruled my world, and that is A Discovery of Witches by Deborah Harkness. This book changed my life. I've always been a huge fan of Anne Rice, and there's nothing that came after Anne Rice that I really loved so much when it comes to vampire books and romances. But then A Discovery of Witches came into my life. In this book, we have witches, vampires, demons, you name it. It has everything that I love. We follow the story of a witch that she just tries not to use her magic. She just doesn't want to. She just wants to be a regular girl. One day when she's in the college library, she's making some research for her alchemy studies, and she finds a manuscript that is supposed to be under a spell. And she doesn't know how to, but she unlocks this spell. And then people and creatures start to appear in her life, and a lot of stuff happens. A lot of stuff goes down, and I needed to know what happened. I needed to read it, and it was lovely. It was really lovely. If you love Anne Rice, vampires, witches, things to do with the supernatural, I really recommend you to pick this book. It is the first book in a trilogy, and since I loved it so much, I'm gonna purchase a hardcover copy of this book, and also I'm gonna get book 2 and 3. The next thing that I read in June is a graphic novel, and that is Wires of Nerve by Marissa Meyer. So after the Lunar Chronicles series, they decided to make 2 volumes of a graphic novel based on the characters and the world of the Lunar Chronicles. I picked the first one and read it in one sitting. It is always great when you get, to go back to a world and characters that you loved. Also, one of the greatest things about this is that it's a graphic novel. So you get to see all the characters and follow them in their adventures in another way. I'm not gonna tell you about the exact plot of the book because then I would be spoiling you the Lunar Chronicles series. But in this book we follow the android Eiko, and she's one of the characters that we meet from the very beginning. She's already in book 1 from the Lunar Chronicles called Cinder. And another thing that I read this month is a book that has been sitting on my shelves for a while, and I thought it was about time to read it. It is the first book in a very popular series, and that is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. It is a very popular series that I have been meaning to start for the longest time. When I started the book, I really loved the world building, but I was not really connecting with the characters, so I think that was my main issue. Some things were also very predictable. You know where things are going to go, and I also kind of know where we're going on book 2, but I especially loved it when we got towards the end. That's when the fun really started. So I hope that book 2 and 3 are gonna be more kind of like the second half of the book. I ended up really enjoying it because of that second half of the book, and I'm going to continue with the series. Next we have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda by Becky Albertalli. Another book that I've been meaning to get to since forever. I got this edition, which is a special edition. It comes with behind the scenes pictures from the movie, as well as an interview with the author. What do you want me to say about this book? I loved it. In this book we follow Simon, and he's a teenager. He's gay and he has not told anybody yet, and he has this male friend called Blue, and he doesn't know who he really is, but they exchange emails with each other. This is where the book takes off, and I have to say I enjoyed this book so much. Like, reading it was so much fun. I love the characters and their personalities. I'm super excited about the book and what it represents for a lot of people. I'm also really excited to watch the movie. I'm gonna have to wait until it comes out in DVD here, which I believe is November. The next book that I read this month is actually the one that I liked the least. That is The Forgetting Time by Sharon Guskin. And I got into the book with an open mind because I really loved the concept. The biggest problem for me was the structure of the book. It gets a little bit messy with the timelines, and there is no part of the book where it is like so gripping and interesting that I just cannot put it down. It's also very predictable. I really wanted to love the book because I love the concept, but it just didn't do it for me. It's basically about the idea of reincarnation and how some children tell stories and like things that they used to like in their past life. So that's really cool, right? But sorry, but the book didn't really do it for me. I'm going to get rid of the book as well because I got the second-hand copy, which is very bruised and abused, so there is no reason for me to keep it. Then I read another graphic novel, and that is Saga. Loved it, loved the characters. There were a couple of moments where they missed it a little bit for me. I love the characters, I love the world building that we got so far in volume 1, and I've already ordered volume 2. It is basically a story of forbidden love. It's kind of like, if you look it that way, a Romeo and Juliet retelling. Our main characters come from different planets, they're at war, and it is forbidden to mate between races. And our main characters come from those two planets that are at war, and because they are a couple and that is forbidden, they are being hunted down. Then I also decided while I was doing things around the apartment that I could listen to an audiobook, so I picked Veronica Decides to Die from Paulo Coelho because I had already read a physical copy of this a couple of years ago, and I really loved the story. I've also watched the movie. The story begins with our main character Veronica, and she decides that she's going to commit suicide. So she gets a lot of pills and she's determined to die. But then she wakes up and it turns out that she didn't die, and she's in a hospital facility for people with mental illnesses. The funny thing is that when she wakes up there, she's kind of glad that she still gets to live her life. But then they tell her that because of all the pills that she took, she has developed a heart condition, so she only has 5 days to live. Alright, so now let's do a recap. I read Fangirl that has a total of 481 pages. I read The Middle Grade Nightmares with 355 pages. Then I read A Discovery of Witches that has an amazing total of 722 pages. Then I read the graphic novel Wires and Nerve that has 238 pages. Then I read A Court of Thorns and Roses with 416 pages. Then we have Simon vs. the Homo Sapiens Agenda with 303 pages. Then we have The Forgetting Time with 405. The other graphic novel that I read this month, which is Saga, has a total of 160 pages. I listened to the audiobook of Veronica Decides to Die, which has a total of 210 pages. Then the two books that I am still reading. We have To All the Boys I've Loved Before, and I am currently in page 98, and Kiss the Morning Star, and I've read until page 107. So that makes a total of 3,400 95 pages, all of them read in the month of June. I'm really proud of myself. This is actually a lot for me. I read a total of 6 physical novels, 2 graphic novels, and listened to an audiobook. Plus, I am in the middle of 2 books. That is like a lot for me. Very proud, very proud. Good job. Alright you guys, so this is my wrap up for the month of June. Let me know down below, what is the best book that you've read in June? Give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any more coffee times with me. To follow me on social media, the links are down below, and I hope to see you guys in the next coffee time. Bye!